Tonight's sermon for the second Sunday after the Epiphany is taken from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Now this sermon is special tonight because we're facing a snow apocalyptic event. And it's Saturday night, and it looks like we're going to get dumped on, so we've already taken measures to cancel the congregational meeting, and church service probably won't be taking place tomorrow. So I'm doing this sermon for the benefit of all of you who are at home, under your nice warm quilt, drinking your hot chocolate. You don't have to leave the house, but I want you to watch this sermon. It's very important. So open your Bible to John chapter 2, verse 1 if you're at home, and pay attention. Here we go. First of all, stop. I thought this was the Gospel of St. Luke year because it's a C-year lectionary cycle. That's what you told me last week. Well, I'm a lion skunk. No, here's what they do. Every once in a while, they insert a reading from the Gospel of John, I guess just to make it complicated. But they do this because it's important to move the story forward on the life of Christ. Remember, the lectionary is the life of Christ in a year. So this is the first of Jesus' signs or miracles that he does in the Gospel of John. It's very appropriate to have it be today, right now, early in the Epiphany season. So we can excuse the people that did the lectionary and just look at John here. First of all, the Gospel of John is the fourth Gospel, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It's the latest one, written in 85 AD, about 50 years after the death, burial, resurrection of Christ. Who wrote it? John, the younger cousin of Jesus. So he writes this, and here we go. What is it about? On the third day. What? The third day? Now when you read the Gospel of John, it's a two-story gospel. Upstairs, metaphysical stuff. Downstairs, physical stuff. The downstairs things are for new Christians. So if you're a new Christian, read the Gospel of John, right? It's entry-level stuff. If you're an old Christian, you've been around a while, you read it and you look for upstairs things. When I say the third day, what does that mean to an old Christian? Someone who's been coming to church all your life? On the third day, he rose again from the dead. Big things happen on the third day. The third day here is the beginning of Jesus' ministry. What's he been doing? The lost years of Jesus? I have many crazy friends on Facebook, right? So I had a big discussion with one of my old college buddies. Charlie Highmark, his name is. He's a farmer from Minnesota. He's retired, now he lives in Arkansas. So he's convinced that Jesus spent the lost years in Tibet. So I had to go through a whole lengthy thing on this. So where was Jesus between the time he was 12 and 30-something? Well, we don't know, other than he was faithful and obedient to his parents. He probably lived in Nazareth, and he was a teknon, a stone worker, a carpenter with his father. So this story is the beginning of his ministry. Notice, Joseph is not mentioned here, right? That means Jesus is the head of the family. So he is going to this wedding at Cana of Galilee. Now stop. Where is Cana in Galilee? Remember, when you read the Bible, you got to take out the maps and look it up. Don't believe me. Look it up on the map. Cana in Galilee is about 4 or 5 miles from Nazareth. Now, what's 4 or 5 miles mean? That's about how far you can walk in a day. Right? So you'd walk from Nazareth to Cana, you go to the wedding. Now, have you been to a wedding before? Yeah, I used to do weddings in Long Island. The 40-foot stretch limo, the Viennese hour, the Huntington townhouse that has red velvet wallpaper and golden light fixtures. It's an unbelievable place, right? And people would say, what an impressive wedding. The $4,000 photographer, the whole bit. Our weddings are a joke compared to the weddings back in Bible days. So how long are these weddings? Well, maybe, 5 hours, 6 hours or something. Well, weddings in the Bible are 7 days to 14 days. So what do? You go to the family, clan, and tribe member's house along with the rest of the village, and you basically live there. Imagine that? So it's a major, major event. And when people get married, right, what do? We go, oh, I'm in love with Buffy and Jimmy. We have to get married. We're in love. That's Victorian stuff. In the Bible days, or for most of human history, why do you get married? My family, clan, and tribe is tired of fighting your family, clan, and tribe, so we'll have your daughter and this boy will get married, and then we'll have an alliance, and that will make our family tribe even bigger and stronger. That's why you get married. And where does love fit in? Well, eventually you might love each other, but who cares? It's for the importance of the community, the family, clan, tribe. That's why you get married. The elders of the tribe negotiate the wedding. In fact, we should bring this back. Like a young couple's engaged or something, have them set up in front. We can interview them, and then we can vote whether we should permit the engagement to proceed or not. And things like, do you have a job, right? Yeah, things like this, right? So anyway, so weddings are different than the way we do weddings. And who was invited to the wedding? Well, the mother of Jesus was there. Does that bother you? This makes me really crazy. Say the word, John. Say it. Mary. The name of Mary does not appear in the Gospel of John. Isn't that interesting? Why is that? I think maybe John wants you to look at Jesus, not to look at Mary. So Mary is a character here, but it's the mother of our Lord, or the mother of Jesus. I think that's fascinating, right? So, again, be careful that you don't let the Jesus movies influence the way you read the Bible. Look at the text and let the text stand itself and question and go, why is that? That's an odd thing. I think it's really fascinating. So the mother of Jesus was there, and Jesus and disciples were there also. They were also invited to the wedding. So what's a disciple? A student of Christ, a disciple. His students were there also. Does it say there were 12 apostles? No, it just says disciples. So his whole entourage is with him. Okay? Again, these weddings involve the whole village, the whole family, clan, tribe. Does anyone have a question about who got married here? Huh? Isn't that odd? It's not mentioned, right? Isn't that weird? It's like, that bothers me. I wonder who gets married. Well, some people say, oh, this is Jesus who married Mary Magdalene at this event.
No.
I'm serious. Some people have speculated. Now, is that true or not? Well, if the Bible doesn't say it, you can't be dogmatic about it, right? So who got married? We don't know. Why? Because it's about the wine and about Jesus, not about the couple that got married. When people get married, the bride. I have 3 daughters. So I've been through this. I'm a haggard veteran of the wedding thing, right? And then things like, oh, it's my day. It's like, oh, it's my day, Well, no. In the Bible, it's Jesus' day. The couple isn't married at all, which is disturbing, right? Again, there's a lot of things about this story that like rub us the wrong way, right? So, okay, here we go. So then the wine gave out, right? Now, is that a problem? Yeah, you see what happens when you have people come to your house for 7 to 14 days and the wine runs out on like day number 2 or 3. That's a bad thing, right? So why? It's an embarrassment for one thing. Remember, when you're the host of an event in the ancient Near East, if the food or wine gives out, it causes you to lose face. Remember, in the Orient, losing face is the worst case scenario. You lose face, it's shame, right? A horrible thing. So the wine ran out. And so what happened? The mother of Jesus came to Jesus and said, they have no wine. Now stop. I think Jesus is kind of like me. He doesn't really pay attention to things. And Mrs. Isaacs usually comes up to me and says something like, didn't you notice whatever? I don't pick up hidden signals, you see. She's going like this. That means, stop, right? I don't pick this up. I'm like, oh, she's swatting flies or something, right? No. So Mary is sensitive and she's in tune to what's going on. Jesus is probably talking to, people, or he's mingling or something, right? He's not paying attention. So Mary comes to him and says, there's no wine. Now, here's one of the most delicious parts of this whole lesson. Jesus says to her, woman, what concern is that of you and me? My hour is not yet come. Now, a lot of people would say, ooh, that's not being very nice to the mother of Jesus. He's got a fresh mouth here, Woman, what concern is that of you? Now, when the word woman is used, and you're talking about the mother of Jesus, you're supposed to go, wait a minute. Genesis 3:15. The seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. Again, when you go to a Catholic church, they have statues of Mary standing on the earth with a serpent, right? Well, that's a messianic prophecy. So woman, Mary is not just the mother of Jesus, she represents all woman. She represents the human race, right? And so what concern is that? Again, it's in the ancient Near East, Mediterranean, they use direct speech. Do you know anybody from New Jersey who's like Sicilian or something? They use direct speech. They come right out and say it, right? It's kind of refreshing, actually. Around here, Minnesota, you're like, how are you? You look wonderful today. Now, if you're in New Jersey, what happened to you? You got run over by a truck or something? I mean, Mediterranean people are blunt and honest, and sometimes it offends our sensibilities, right? Right? Well, that's what's going on here. What concern is it to you? My hour is not yet here. Say that word? My hour is not yet here. What hour is that? The hour is the beginning of Jesus' 3.5-year earthly ministry. This is not just, what time is it? What's the hour? No, it's the beginning of this eschatological event, the breaking in of the Messiah, right? My hour is not yet here. And his mother said, do whatever he tells you to do. What a great thing, right? So the mother of Jesus, she's the first woman, the first person on earth to call Jesus my Savior in the Magnificat. She also has unlimited faith in Jesus, doesn't she? Do whatever he says. In other words, listen to what he has to do. Listen to what he says. Is that pretty good advice? Our problem is that we think we know more than God. We know more than Jesus, so we tell God what to do. No, you're supposed to listen to what God says, and you're supposed to do what God tells you to do. You're supposed to listen to Jesus, right? So I love that line. Do whatever he tells you to do. Now, standing there were 6 jars that were used for the Jewish rites of purification. Wait a minute, how many jars?
6.
You think that's a mistake that he put that? Maybe it was like 7 or 9 or 12 or 4 or something. No, 6 jars. In the Bible, numbers are important, right? Right? 7 is the God number, right? 6 is the number of man. The man number is number 6, okay? Mankind, 6, okay? 6 falls one short of the number of 7, the number of God. 40 days, number of trial and temptation. It goes on and on. So the number 6, I don't think is a mistake. And these jars are gigantic. They hold 20 to 30 gallons of water. So they'd be really big. I mean, I don't even know how you'd even move something like that. They'd be so massive, right? So these giant jars of wine or water. And Jesus says, fill them with water. Now, why did Jesus give the command to fill the jars with water? So that you would know that it wasn't some kind of a trick. If the water was pre-filled, maybe there's some kind of a secret compartment, a magician thing or something. The jars were empty, and he orders them filled with water. So there's nothing in it but water, and everyone sees this. They're all standing there watching it be filled. Okay. And so they did it. What did they do? They did what he told them to do. Now we pass over that and we go, "What's the big deal, la-di-da?" Ready? There's miracles all over the place, but we don't accept them, we don't believe them, because we don't do what God tells us to do. The first thing with a miracle, if God tells you to do something, you do it, right? So we have to give credit to these people who listened to what Jesus did and they did it. Again, do we listen to it? Not really. Do we do what he tells us to do? No, not really. See that? So you have to give credit to these people. They did what Jesus said exactly. And then he says to the chief steward, he's like the maitre d' of the wedding, draw some out and take it to the chief steward. So he did. And the steward tasted the water, and it had become wine. Stop. Does that bother you? Yeah, that bothers me. I want to know, how did he do it? Did he say like, abracadabra, I dim the lights? It's like it's a Las Vegas performance of a magician or something. No. Jesus, when he does a miracle, he just like spits on the ground and rubs the mud in their eye, and that's it. He doesn't say the secret words, or he doesn't make a big show out of it. Like you'd see a magician do it on TV, drum roll, the music starts up. He just matter of fact. And they drink, and it became wine. And they didn't know where it came from. They can't explain it. right? They can't explain this hidden action of God. And the servants, they knew because they drew the water, right? And the steward called the bridegroom and he said to him, now notice, the servant called the bridegroom. Okay, is that kind of an important line? Who got married here? If it was Jesus and Mary Magdalene, then they got married. Well, the bridegroom is a different character here. See that? Okay? Gee, they missed that detail, I guess, when they made up the story about Mary Magdalene, right? Okay? So the steward calls the bridegroom. Everyone serves the best wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guest had become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now. Stop. Is this a problem? Yeah, for like Baptists and stuff. They I don't know what they do. They kind of like skip over this part. They don't read it or something because, you can't drink. That's an evil thing. Right? Stop. What is the Greek word for wine? O-I-N-O-S. Onos. That's the Greek word for wine. Is there a Greek word for grape juice? Yeah, there is. So did Jesus turn the water into grape juice? No. Why not? If you make grape juice in the ancient Near East, it takes about a day before it starts to ferment and turn into wine. Who drank wine in the ancient world? Why? Because if you drink the water, you're going to die. Right? Just like, why do Germans drink beer north of the Alps? Because if you don't drink beer, you drink the water, you're going to get sick and die. And they knew that for some reason. So everybody drinks wine. Now, in the Bible, is drunkenness a problem? Yes, drunkenness is considered a sin. Even in the Greco-Roman world, moderation in all things is a great virtue to practice. Moderation in all things. That's one of the great teachings of the ancient Near East. Do we do moderation in all things? No. Everything has to be extreme now, right? Everything's extreme, everything's extra large, everything's over the top. Well, you know what? There's a lot to be said for steady Eddie and moderation. It's a biblical principle. And not only that, it's a Greco-Roman principle, right? In the Greek world, who are people that were extreme and over the top? Followers of Bacchus, Bacchanalia, right? What do? They ingest large quantities of alcohol to have a chemically induced mystical experience. In our time, we would call this the 1960s, right? And where are these people from the 60s? They're probably all dead now, right? Because this is not a good way to live, right? Moderation in all things. So it is wine. The word is wine. You can't get out of it. It says wine, okay? And they turn water into wine. And then the steward, he says, everyone serves good wine first and then inferior wine. Now, why do I read the Bible? I read the Bible because it pretty much captures the way people really are, human nature. Do we do this? Yeah, we do it all the time. A whole bunch of people are coming, you put the good stuff out first, and then people get the impression that it's all good stuff, and it isn't. You put the crummy stuff in the back. This works, right? So this is like a picture of human nature. You could just see this is like the philosophy of the streets. Everybody does this, right? And he says, but you've saved the good wine until now. Stop. The wine that ran out before Jesus came along and turned the water into wine was okay, but this wine is the best wine ever. Why is that? Because God made it. You got that? Yeah, you can't outdo God. God made the wine. It's a beautiful thing, right? Now, what does this mean? John closes with this. He says, Jesus did this. What did he do? He turned the water into wine at the wedding at Cana in Galilee. And this is the first of his signs. See that word signs? Sign. What's a sign? We don't have a sign here. But usually over the door it says something like exit. Okay? Well, what does an exit sign do?
Guides you.
If there's a fire or something, you can look and you see it and you go to where the sign is. And we have road signs. You point here, go left, go right. A sign is a pointer and an indicator to help you get through, help you survive in case there's a fire, right? Signs are there for a reason. There are 7 signs in the Gospel of John. John says at the end of his gospel, if I recorded everything that Jesus did, there wouldn't be enough books in the world to hold the material. So he edits carefully to come up with the Gospel of John. So everything in there pushes you toward the direction, it's a story, a little bit of time. He's like laying evidence, like Perry Mason or something, building a case. One brick, another brick, another brick, another brick, until you're all done and you have this massive structure of evidence that convinces you that Jesus is the Son of God, who he says he is. Okay? And there are 7 signs in the gospel. And the first one is this one, and the last one is Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. We'll be reading that during Holy Week, right? Is that kind of amazing? Yeah, that's the biggie, okay? Now remember, there are 4 classifications of miracles in the Bible, right? Victory over Satan, that's the temptation of Christ. We'll be reading that ahead a little bit. Victory over disease, he heals people. Victory over nature, and victory over death. This is a nature miracle, because it's not, water doesn't turn into wine naturally, so it's victory over nature. So Jesus is God, who is victory over nature, and the last one is victory over death. He raises Lazarus from the dead. So the 7 signs all fit into that structure of the 4 miracles, right? And again, what's the point? You're supposed to say, who is this man? Who is this man? He goes to a wedding. Right? He's just a normal guest. All of a sudden he steps up and he solves the problem of having the host save face. It could have been humiliation. It could have been a really bad thing. Imagine, would you like to be humiliated in front of all your family and everybody you know? Jesus helps this person save face, and the wedding goes on and people are filled with joy. It's a magnificent, beautiful social event. And these signs, what's the purpose of them? To reveal his glory. Right? To reveal his glory. Jesus came to die on the cross for our sins, but he also came to give us a peek into who he really is, the Son of God. He's revealing his glory through this. And what happened? His disciples believed him. Stop. Who are the disciples? It's not the 12 apostles. It's his students believed him. Who are you? You, me, but we are all disciples of Christ. And when you read a story like this, it deepens your faith and your commitment to Jesus. You're a disciple. And what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to believe him and do what he says. Fill these jars with water. They did it. That's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to go, this story, I'm convinced. I believe him. And there's 6 more to go after this as you progress on in the Gospel of John. I better end there because I don't want to endanger the congregation that's gathered here Saturday night with an oncoming ice storm or something, right? We have to get on and do communion now. Amen.